Thanks for joining us on the Adrenaline Rush. I'm your host, Donald Kinney of Dragon Warrior Kung Fu and Velchrome.
And I'm your co-host, Wildman Robbie Page. We want you to sit back, relax, and get ready to listen to a couple of things we want to talk about, because you're in store for what we like to call the Adrenaline Rush.
Test Run Part 2, Adrenaline Rush with Wildman Robbie Page, and I'm your host, Donald Kinney of Dragon Warrior Kung Fu. So let's get into it, Wildman. What's up?
Well, last time we was talking, I was planning a surprise thing for my wife, and it actually turned out pretty good. We had a group of 8 with some family and friends, and it was a surprise. I tried to keep it nonchalant. She tried to get it out of me a few times, but she didn't really realize where we were at until we actually got there. It was a place in Winchester called Worlds Away Escape. They got like a 3-level escape room. They change them up every 4 months. So this is the first time we ever done something like this. We've been kind of hinting around it. She's been dropping hits that she would like to try something like this. So got together with her sister and a couple of her friends. We got to talking to the people that run that place, and they say there's all kinds of stuff. There's like adventure rooms. There's like rooms with the floors that moves and the walls that change and all kinds of and stuff like
Nice.
that. There's like horror rooms. There's continuous rooms, which is like you got to escape one room and then you go into another one like that. And then there's ones like we did, which is like there's a low level where the puzzles are kind of easier than a medium and then hard. And our group, we got out of the first 2, and then we had 2 puzzles left to solve in that last room, and we ran out of time, but because we got out of the last 2, they gave us an extra 10 minutes to try to figure it out. We figured it out and we got out, but we didn't get through the third one. But it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I've heard great things about escape rooms there in Winchester.
So what about you, man? What did you get into this week?
I've been playing catch up on the work that I didn't get done last week, basically. Working with a new online distribution. We've switched from CD Baby to DistroKid for our music. We got the new Awesome House Christmas single, which I mentioned, about being competitive with the Christmas lights. We put that out like a short version, just, for these holidays in case the album doesn't come out this year. But there'll be a longer version on the full album whenever that comes out.
Yeah, so check that out.
New music from Velchrome.
Plug in the surge protectors. The neighbors took the easy route. I do not do light protectors.
I think we're weak.
My favorite part of the neighbor's house would have to be their windows. I think the part I love the best is my house's reflection in them. My house is an awesome house. My house is an awesome house. Maybe next year figure it out. This year just take your lane lights down.
Save yourself the embarrassment.
Icicles at a nice edge, the snow gives a great glare. Creates a 3-way mirror, my house is everywhere I stare. This has to be the greatest show, they're not just on the ground. I hung them from the 5th floor loft, I don't know how I'm getting down.
Let's go, I'll catch you.
My house is an awesome house, my house is an awesome house. Maybe next year figure it out, this year just take your lane lights. My house is an awesome house, my house is an awesome house. Maybe next year figure it out, this year just take your lane lights down.
Other than that, just getting on my kung fu, always trying to improve. Been taking trips out to Fairmont to train with Rick Starsick at Taolong Kung Fu, the Way of the Dragon.
Come here early this morning right after work, knock this out in the morning, and go home, get some sleep, because tonight, 5 o'clock, we're going to be down at Extreme in Martinsburg.
Yep, Extreme Family Fitness, Elite Martial Arts, and Dragon Warrior Kung Fu. They also recently added a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, which is in between our Kung Fu and the MMA class, which is Jesse Kirby of Elite Martial Arts, and your old wrestling buddy Chris Catan.
Yeah, that's right. Old Gat, he's been doing his thing. I think he's a little sidelined here recently and been just kind of picking and choosing when he competes in the ring and all that, because he's had a little bit of a neck injury and stuff, but he's definitely a talented dude, and when he wanted to get into wrestling and everything, he already had martial arts background, so it was way easier to teach him the fundamentals, the basics, the ground, and the selling, the bumps and all that stuff. He was a fast learner, and definitely someone that you want to have on your roster if you're running a league.
I remember doing a lot of training matches with him when we were doing Team Page, and he was definitely one of the most fun guys to work with, because he'd let you beat him up and throw him around. And I remember the one match we had, he put me in a submission hold. I didn't even know what it was. It felt like I was getting wrapped up by an octopus or something.
Yeah, he has a tendency to do that. I think his ground game is his thing. And a couple of years ago, won an actual legit MMA title there. Held it for, I think, 6-7 months, and then he lost. And I don't know if he's had any fights recently because of his injury, but hopefully he heals up soon and gets back in action.
Yeah, absolutely, talented guy.
Speaking of talent and stuff like that, we've been trying to wash down some of this TV wrestling that's been on TV here last 6 weeks, man. It's hard to find something that I can actually sit down and get into.
Yeah, what kind of fluids do you recommend to wash that down?
I mean, seriously, like, I'm glad there's DVR nowadays where you don't have to sit there and watch it or wait for the commercial or whatever. You can fast forward and kind of get to what you want to watch. But when the SmackDown starts, and for the first 35 and a half minutes, it's Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin talking. It's kind of boring. And for me, as a wrestling fan, I tune in, I want to see some story, I want to see some angles, but I'm tuning in because I want to see the action. I want to see the wrestling, not somebody talk on a microphone for a half an hour.
Exactly.
5 minutes, get to the point. Somebody comes out, something happens, boom, whoever's in charge or whatever makes a match. Let's do something exciting. Let's get into it. Let's start the show off with a bang, not a bunch of freaking dialogue.
It's a chronic condition with these modern shows, and I'll probably catch a lot of heat for saying this, but we mentioned on the last episode that we did how they kind of pick certain guys that they want to push, and it doesn't matter how the crowd reaction is. Like Roman Reigns, that guy was so unpopular just like last year.
Roman Reigns, he's a talented guy, and it's sad the story that he had, and it's great that he come back from the cancer scare.
But is it just me, or had he already beat the cancer or the leukemia or whatever he had, and he just wanted to like take a month off, and they said, oh, he's leaving because of the leukemia, and then he came back, and everybody's like, woo, we're so glad that he's back. But he already beat it like years ago, right?
Well, I think it came out like he was in remission or something. That is the way they're, I don't know if it's storyline or not, but I guess he came back and he went back to treatments, and that's why he was off TV and stuff for a month or so. But if you think about real life, if you're going in for cancer treatments, it takes more than a month or two before you get the clear.
Yeah, it didn't.
Health,
I don't want to be harsh on anybody, for their illnesses or anything like that. But it just seemed like a cheap way to get him over to me.
I would say that would be part of it. Now he's back and he's finally getting some of the crowd to cheer him, but they're right back to shoving him down everybody's throat, and he's taking up 40 minutes of the beginning without wrestling or doing anything, just talking. And it's like, here we go again, and it's going to get old, and the crowd's going to start booing him again, and then what? Where do you go from here? They've been trying for years, with the dirt sheets and all that stuff, saying, or tons of people, just turn him heel and have him be a big heel, and then find a way to turn him back, baby.
Sure.
But right now, it's like you got so many other guys that you can kind of push a little bit.
When I understand he's well respected in the back, and I do think that should make a difference. But yeah, just like you were saying, that would make a lot more sense if you got somebody that is not getting over well with the crowd, but they're a good worker. Then turn them heel. Let them help pull up some of the other potential baby faces. They got such an extensive roster of people that you hardly ever even see on TV.
And I was listening to a podcast actually on my way here, and they were talking about, think about on all the shows for WWE, who's an actual true babyface?
Kind of hard to say. You can't make up your mind on Daniel Bryan. He's good one week and bad the next week, and
yeah, because. And you got Rey Mysterio, the ultimate underdog, going around now, crotch shotting people and hitting people with lead pipes and stuff like that. And, I mean, like, so is that what you want your little kid to be like?
Going Tanya Harding on him,
or going to class and punching his classmate in the dick, and then the next thing you know, he's like, oh yeah, I saw it on wrestling. but like, I mean, who? I mean,
619 right in the dick.
It's hard to think of a true babyface that they have right now, and I mean, and that goes back to, that traditional wrestling. What grabbed people was that there was a good and a clear vision of who was good and bad. You always have a few in-betweener guys, but not everybody. I mean, you got to have somebody that you want to see overcome the odds and stuff like that. And if everybody's on even ground and everything else that you see nowadays, everything's so 50-50, and the big guys are selling to the smaller guys.
That's supposed to be in the definitions, right? El Technico uses the wrestling skills to win the match, and he's the baby face, and El Rudo is the big hairy guy who cheats.
Yeah, I mean, and there's different perspectives and horizons and stories and different things you can go with everything, but I feel like it's just like this. It's like the people they got on creative. They're out of storylines. If they're having that much trouble, then maybe do like AWE is doing, and they've done a few of the angles going back in the old school era, taken away from old NWA storylines and stuff like that. Maybe rehash a few of those if you can't come up with any new ideas. But I would think a $1 billion company could find some actual people that know how to create wrestling, not some writer from a college that is writing stories. Somebody.
It makes me wonder who they've got writing, because I always hear that they have a team of writers, and then when you whenever you go back and get the behind the scenes, it's always like, well, Vince McMahon decided to do it this way,
Yeah, and you hear that, but who's coming up with all these ideas and stuff? Like, it's not, it's one or two people that know the business and stuff like that, but the majority of what you hear about are just, the office people and stuff like that have no idea how the business goes, I mean, per se, you know what I mean? I think the product would be so much better if they actually had, like, the the wrestlers that really can't compete no more, the Hall of Famers and stuff like that, sitting around a table.
There you go.
Brainstorming, shooting ideas.
I love that idea.
You know what I mean?
That'd be a whole nother show if I was running things. It'd be the show where the Hall of Famers sit around and make up the storylines.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, you're gonna have Vince McMahon with the last say and everything, but I just feel like they need something fresh, not the same old that we've been seeing for the last decade. I mean, and that's what's turning me away from watching the product. I mean, you got a lot of talented guys that aren't getting a really good push, and they're jobbing out to other guys that they have storylines going on that don't make a hill of beans, and nobody gives a shit about it.
Yeah, and there seems to be a very strange, decision-making process on what they're going to drop and what they're going to stick with. It seems to always be backwards from what people want.
Yeah, and it's not like back in the day. Like, okay, back in the day, they build stuff up for several weeks. Yeah, they didn't have a lot of pay-per-views back then, which I think is a big downfall, because nowadays they got, maybe 3 weeks to build up to the next pay-per-view. So there's not a lot of time for a story, and that's why I think they're running out of ideas. Go cut back some of that shit. You got so much content as it is right now. Cut back on your pay-per-views. Don't overload it with the people, and start building up the people you got. Start making a good angle and get people invested, and leave a little space for that to carry on. Back in the day, the titles meant something. The champion kept the belt for a little bit of a significant period of time. Nowadays, man, the title's flip-flopping every pay-per-view or every other pay-per-view or whatever, and the guys that are holding the belts, like Brock Lesnar forever, he's only around once a month on TV or every other pay-per-view and stuff like that. So to me, that's not like it was back in the old school. They were defending the belt every pay-per-view.
Absolutely.
And they were on the road.
A lot of times every show. You had the fighting champion, and you hear some of the guys like Seth Rollins, pushing for that. They want to be the fighting champion, and it's definitely lost something. And I think that's one of the things that AEW is doing a good job of, because they came right out the gate, with trying to promote their new product, and they hit like 3 pay-per-views in a row, and then they backed off. Now they're only doing them every 2 or 3 months or whatever.
And they were trying to trademark some of the old WCW pay-per-views that WWE hasn't trademarked yet, and it's causing a lot of uproar with the WWE. It's pretty much AWE taking a stab at WWE, but I guess if they used it to their advantage and make something out of it, it could work for them.
Well, and I can understand their personal motivation for wanting to do that, since Dusty Rhodes was one of the key creative people for WCW. Of course, the Rhodes brothers being main people for AEW, they want to pay tribute to Daddy and continue some of the things that he did.
Yeah, because they won't be able to get the Starcade name, which is one of the main things that their dad did come up with, and WWE is trying to hold on to that, and they're just trashing everything about Starcade. Was that, if you would have, I haven't watched it yet, but I've just heard about how horrible the Starcade was over the weekend on the WWE network. It has nothing to do with the old Starcade, and no nostalgia to it or nothing like that. It's just another WWE program.
Yeah, just another thing that they bought the name of, and they're doing their own thing under somebody else's name, basically.
Yeah, and that's why it's just getting hard to watch, man.
I think War Games was one of Dusty Rhodes' creations too, right? And they gave that to NXT.
Yeah, and they changed it. It's one. As far as the one I seen, it was. And it's 2 cages and 2 rings, but the cage is open. It doesn't have a top. And see, the real War Games, it has a top to it, so you couldn't get out.
Yeah, it's more of a no escape situation.
Yeah, but anyway, with that, I guess we'll take our break, listen to a couple ads from sponsors, and then we'll come back with the next segment. Hey, it's Wildman Robbie Peach here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that Mountaineer brand product. I've been using this stuff for quite a while now, and I would say my top 3 things that I use is the sore muscle rub. Man, you can rub it in pretty good. There's no greasy stuff on your fingers afterwards, and it actually works. And I also like the beard oil for shaving. It's like a pre-shave oil. Instead of using like the foam or the gels that are going to break out your face and stuff, you can use this oil, and it makes everything just like fall off your face basically. And then one other thing that I like is that Mountaineer beard balm. You know, I don't have a big beard. I'm trying to grow it out for the winter here a little bit, but I've been using on that little goatee there to try to keep that thing straight, and it's been working. You just got to keep at it, you know. So when you get a chance, go to mountaineerbrand.com, check out all their deals. They always got something going on, and whatever they got going on, if you use the promo code WildMan15, you'll get an extra 15% off your order. So help a brother out and check out some Mountaineer brand products.
And we're back with another edition of the Chopping Block. All right, Wild Man, whose head's on the guillotine this week?
Well, Donald, you know, this segment's just to express my feelings about different people that I've met through my experience and journey through independent wrestling. And a lot of them, you know, I've had to bite my tongue. Some of them I've said stuff to before and all that, but it's time that everybody listening gets to know really how I feel about certain people. So today we're gonna put on the chopping block a duo, a father and son duo, if I may say. Once I say the names, everybody who listens to this episode is gonna know exactly who and why I'm saying this. Butch and Brady Hess. Man, you guys really trashed the name of the local indie wrestling and everything that it stands for. I have nothing against Butch as a person. He's a really nice guy and he means well and all that stuff. But man, when I left my training place, he was just a fan wanting to be a referee, and then a couple years later he's wrestling and all this stuff. And if you look up any of his matches, just tell me if that looks professional, if he looks like a professional wrestler to you. I'm sorry, man. Be a ref, be a manager, stay out of the ring. Please, you're going to hurt yourself, somebody else. You have already before. There comes a time when you just got to admit to yourself that, man, I can't do this and I shouldn't be doing it, and I shouldn't be acting like I'm at certain people's levels when you're not. I mean, I'm not trying to say that to be a dick, but a lot of people just won't tell you to your face. They'll say it behind your back, and I'm sure some people have probably told you the same thing. I know you haven't wrestled for a little while, but your son has, and this is where I want to get to with your son. He's always carried himself like he's better than everybody else that's around him, which is a freaking joke, because the whole time I was down there in Hagerstown, he was like one of those nonchalant guys that would come when he felt like it and this and that, did what he wanted to do, had this fucking attitude, man. It really irritated me. They lived right beside the trainer and, you know, basically helping pay bills and whatever. He was like a no-go target, you know what I mean? So you had to watch what you say and all that kind of bullshit and stuff. And I've given him chances in the past, you know, about how he carries himself and all that stuff and the way he just acts. I mean, he's a glorified mark, if you ask me, like a fan that just doesn't get it. There was an incident. I was gone for a while. I came back. It was probably 5 years. He was champion, and you know, they did weekly shows down there. So at that time, to me, with the belts being swapped so many times, it really didn't mean too much to me, you know what I mean? And I didn't know if I was going to continue to keep coming down there, because it was just like hitting here and there, just kind of, you know, in between things and stuff like that. You know, I wasn't back there full time. I was just, you know, helping out when I could and stuff at that point. This particular night, I was told I'm in a 4-way with Butch, Brady, another guy under the mask that was dressed like a clown. No offense to that guy, because he was put in that situation. He's a decent worker and stuff like that. But
Yeah, no offense to
it was
Doink
just
either.
it's a crap. This was a crappy gimmick. So I'm trying to see if they want to talk about some stuff and go through, because we're supposed to be the main event at a Tuesday night show or whatever in front of like 15 people or whatever. In the match, we just started going through a couple things because they didn't really talk about much or anything, so we're just kind of trying to go with the flow, and going with the flow with two guys that take liberties and don't really know how to work and stuff is hard. We're like 2 minutes in the match, and Brady's like, "We're going home." I'm like,
We're gonna do a 2-minute match.
I've been here for an hour. I drove 30 minutes, and I've been waiting all night to get in the ring, and been in fucking 2 minutes, and you're gonna call home. So this fucking idiot, sweet, like double legs me or whatever, and tries to pin me, and I kick out. So now he spears his dad. He goes to pin his dad. I break up the pin, right? And he tries to do something else to the other guy, and just break up the pin again. And he's all mad and frustrated and stuff, right? Because he wants to go home, and I'm like, fuck that, like. You live right across. You can,
you can literally go home anytime you want.
which I'm getting to. I'm working with him. I'm not. If this was real, he wouldn't be able to just take me down like nothing.
Yeah,
right?
so it hasn't gone full blown shoot yet. You're still trying to work it.
Yeah, he takes me down again. Now he's trying to put me in some kind of a makeshift knee bar or something, and he's really cranking on my leg, and I'm thinking, okay, he's either trying to shoot on me or he's in the process of trying to hurt me or whatever. So I'm counting in my head to 3. And if he's still got a hold and doing what he's doing, he's going to be eating his own teeth because I'm in the process of lifting my leg up as I'm counting in my head. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as I'm lifting my leg up, he lets go of me, rolls out of the ring, throws his hands up, walks out of the school, and walks the fuck home in the middle of the match. So now we're in the middle of the match. His dad is looking at the trainer because he wants to get the nod to go over. He's like foaming at the mouth. Well, and like I said, I didn't even know if I was going to be there the next week or whatever. Well, I get the nod to get the win, get the belt, roll in the back, put the belt on the chair, and I'm like, because I'm probably not going to be here next week, which that's what happened. And then eventually his dad, he gets the belt or whatever. But like I said, those belts really didn't mean a whole lot at that time to me or to a lot of other people, just because of how bad they've been tarnished with the people that claim that they're the champ and all that stuff. But that's what I'm getting to. So Brady, either get in shape and really learn how to work and lose the fucking attitude, or take your boots, put them in the trash, dump a little lighter fluid in it, and burn your boots. Butch, you're a nice guy, dude, but please stay out of the ring. And that is the chopping block.
Are you being bullied?
Yeah.
Do you want to learn to defend yourself?
Yes.
You want to learn how to punch?
Yes.
Kick?
Yes.
Sweep?
Yes.
Take them down?
Yes.
Joint lock the wrist?
You know it.
Joint lock the arm?
Of course.
Ankle lock?
You can do that?
Chokeholds?
Of course.
Wrestling?
Yes.
Kickboxing?
Yes.
Total annihilation of the enemy?
Yeah.
Then you need to get on down to Dragon Warrior Kung Fu, where you can learn all of that and more.
All right, we're back, and we're going to have our martial arts lesson of the day with Donald Kinney.
As you may or may not know, I am the owner of Dragon Warrior Kung Fu. I started out Tong Sudo and MMA, switched to Seido Juku, which was the original American branch of Kyokushinkai, Masayama's hardstyle karate. And in more recent years, I've gotten into Animal Kung Fu and Pai Lum. Pai Lum Kung Fu is a very interesting style. It's something that I've been very kind of borderline obsessed with since I've gotten into Kung Fu. It's actually founded by an American. He was a Polynesian American from Hawaii, and he was adopted. He was an orphan. He was adopted by a Chinese family, and they had their own family style of Chinese Kung Fu that they only taught within the family. Since he was an adopted grandchild of this Chinese Kung Fu master, he was eligible to take up the lineage. But his grandfather was a bit of a hard ass, and I've heard some controversial stories about that guy. I won't go into detail about because I don't know how factual they are, but bottom line, what we do know is he sent him at a young age to Okinawa to train with relatives that they had there. So he developed early in teenage years kind of a mix of Chinese Kung Fu and Okinawan karate, which is the old school karate, which already was a little bit closer to the old school Kung Fu than a lot of the tournament sport karate that you see nowadays. They're a lot more, self-defense based, not as flashy, more just nasty. But, and then of course when he was over there, Okinawa is, right by Japan. I've heard some stories about him going to Japan and training with, some of the famous teachers there, Masayama's Hanbu Dojo, and I don't know whether it's true or not. I heard he studied a little bit of Aikido with Yoshiba, the founder of Aikido, and had a really high ranking in Danzanryu Jiu-Jitsu. Came back, started teaching in the States. First started teaching in the States, I believe, late 50s, into the early 60s. He was head of one of the national karate organizations here. And then as it went further into the 60s, his adopted grandfather passed away and left him as the grandmaster of the family Kung Fu style, which he wasn't allowed to teach Americans, which is why he was technically teaching karate when he started out. Of course, his brand of karate was a little bit more Chinese than, most people's. And he did a lot of that where he was teaching whatever the popular material that everyone else was doing, but with his own Chinese Kung Fu kind of flair to it. And then once he was grandmaster of the family Kung Fu style, he started, in order to be able to teach it, he started actually adopting his top students and then teaching them some of the family style. So you have this very interesting, mix of people who were taught certain material publicly, and then the different people that are referred to as his disciples, that are his, adopted children or adopted grandchildren or whatever, that he taught some of the family style. And nobody had, nobody of his top students had the exact same assortment of material. So that now there's multiple lineages of the Pai Lum, Kung Fu and karate. And you see a lot of the same key movements and sets and stuff like that, but nobody's got exactly the same stuff. So that's been a really interesting study for me. I started out with a couple guys who were from the Pai Lung, the John Winninger lineage out of Pennsylvania, that broke off from that in the early to mid 90s after Grandmaster Daniel Pai passed away, and they started their own thing with Five Animal Kung Fu and Renzoku Jiu-Jitsu. I met a guy from Connecticut who was White Lotus Shaolin Five Form Fist, which was run by one of Daniel Pai's adopted grandchildren. Picked up more material from that lineage. And now I'm training in Fairmont with Rick Starsick, who I met several years ago, and we've been, good friends, staying in touch. So now I'm trying to join, his lineage. I've been learning a lot of stuff from him, and he's from the Gene Thorner lineage, who was another adopted child of Grandmaster Pai. It's nice to be able to get more directly involved with that through Sifu Starsick. As I mentioned, the first couple groups that I trained with, they were from Pai Lum originally, but they kind of broke off and did their own thing. The lineage that I'm with now is still authentic Pai Lum, direct from the Grandmaster to Gene Thorner to Terry McLean to Rick Starsick and now myself. So I'm very much looking forward to that opportunity to being a full-fledged Pai Lum instructor here in the near future. But I've already been teaching a lot of the same or very similar material for the past 5 years. It's a very self-defense oriented system, but at the same time, it's a very broad, wide-ranging system where you have elements of karate, elements of jiu-jitsu, the old traditional weapons of karate and kung fu, a lot that goes into it. And there's a lot of confusion caused by that when you see people that do mainland styles of kung fu from China, because they're not sure whether or not we're kung fu or whether we're just ripping off stuff or what's going on with that.
Like we were saying last week, and don't mind me, I've just been sitting back listening, like story time, eating a snack and stuff. So, but like we were saying last week, I've never studied kung fu, but I've done several other martial arts, and as I do more of it, I see where you say like a lot of stuff originated from kung fu, because it's kind of like the same movements, but kung fu's a little bit more, like, for me, the footwork is different. So that's what I'm having the most trouble with, that and just remembering new forms and stuff like that. But like with me in Taekwondo and kickboxing, it was more of being on your toes and moving around and staying on your feet and, in and out and side to side and stuff like that, whereas kung fu's more, plant your feet, stand your ground, and that kind of thing, so it's like trying to keep me still for a certain period of time is like retraining my body, because even with wrestling, you're shooting in, you're moving and stuff like that, where some kung fu is more, moving and stuff like that, but like you're trying to, like I'm starting at ground zero, so I got to learn the base movements and stuff like that, and it's like riding a bicycle and you've never rode a bicycle before,
Yeah, well, the way that I've kind of structured my program is like in the order that a fight would take place. So you have like kicking range, then punching range, then, close range, clinch fighting, stuff like that, into the takedown, into the groundwork, right? So, first thing you learn is, blocking, don't get hit, working on your kicks, stuff like that. Then you learn a little bit more advanced, arm techniques and, maybe some locks, wrist locks, arm bars, whatever, into the clinch fighting, with the knees and the elbows and the grabbing and the wrestling for a takedown, and then you get into grappling and stuff like that. But it's been interesting training in Fairmont, seeing more of the way it was structured originally, which is like what you were saying, where you learn to plant your feet and have a strong stance and foundation first, and you learn to fight from that with power first, then you start moving around more.
And that's what kind of, I guess, is like a mirage with people. Like when people say, yeah, I'm learning kung fu, the first thing that pops in a lot of people's head is, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, the wah, and the boom, 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 taking on 20 people at a time, which I'm not saying that some of the, the masters and stuff like that can't do something like that. But like I have wrestling and jiu-jitsu, more of my strong point, like the grappling and the takedowns and the submissions and joint locks and stuff like that. But you don't think about those things when you think about kung fu in a general population. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just had a conversation with somebody recently who's also a kung fu person, and they were trying to convince me that there's no groundwork in kung fu. There absolutely was, because the Chinese wrestling and Shui Jiao, which is their version of judo, those are some of the, those are among the oldest sports or fighting forms or whatever, just like, pancration in ancient Greece, goes all the way back to their myths where, their gods and demigods, wrestled the giant wolves and monsters and stuff with pancration techniques and but the same kind of stuff was I'm sure going on all over the world. Anywhere you got people, you got wrestling and fighting, and the big thing is, as Kung Fu has gotten more modern, it's gotten more elements of it and branches of it that have stayed more focused on fighting and that have Sanshou and Sanda and stuff like
you can
that.
kind of almost say in the same way wrestling has. Back in the day, it was about believability, realism. It was more real. It was tighter work and stuff like that, where that's kind of like Kung Fu is. But nowadays, it's more entertainment, that flashiness for
Yes.
the movies and stuff like that. And that's what people think it is because of
Yeah,
that.
you had performance, Kung Fu in the traveling opera, and then you had performance Kung Fu in the movies. And now when you have the Kung Fu tournaments, like I was saying, there's an element of real fighting where it's kind of a mixture of like kickboxing and MMA, but there's also a really popular in China these days, just to do these modernized routines of Kung Fu that feature much more of like aerobics and gymnastics, where they're kind of running around doing flips and trying to act like a monkey and, stuff that's more for show, So it gets confusing for people because when it comes to Kung Fu, there's a very long and very diverse history. So it really kind of takes a lot of research to get just a general overview grasp of it.
Yeah, so that's why with just anything, you got to actually, put a little time into it and adapt to it. And everything's going to be a struggle at first, but if you stick with it, with what you provide and the help you have with Jesse and me, there's a combination of all kinds of things that they can learn. It's like a variety, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and to me, my view on it now is kind of a everything is Kung Fu idea, but that's what I'm going for with the school, is to teach a little bit of everything so that people can find what they like the most or what they're best suited for and develop that, and while also having a kind of a well-rounded knowledge.
Awesome. I guess that'll be the martial arts lesson of today.
That's the lesson of the day. This is Donald Kinney with Dragon Warrior Kung Fu. I want to talk about Mountaineer brand beard care products. Their beard balm is the best around you'll find. They're a great local company, all natural products. I can't recommend them strong enough. I've been using their beard oil when I get out of the shower and I've got the damp beard. I just massage it in there. It gives me a nice shimmer and shine for my coat for the rest of the night. Plus it gives a little perfume smell that the ladies love, and they get in close for your moments of intimacy and you smell like lime and sage, and that's a good thing. MountaineerBrand.com, promo code WILDMAN15, save you some money. All right, we're back with our final segment of the day. Want to get a little word from Wildman here on your influences in wrestling. What made you want to get involved? What's influenced your style?
Well, at a young age, you're captivated by like the show, the look, the excitement, that kind of stuff. So growing up, I was the Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, the Rockers, the Demolition, the Road Warriors, that kind of, that stuff. But when I started my teenage years, I started following wrestling in the area. I started watching it more. I started trading tapes. I started getting to see a variety of different wrestling, kind of breaking it down, and almost like a football player watches back a football game. I'm bits and pieces and taken from this guy and taken from this guy, and the ones I was taken from were ones I could relate to, like the amateur wrestlers, like Scott Steiner with the different suplexes and stuff like that, or like Great Muta with the different kicks, and Ricky Steamboat with the good arm locks, the good drop kicks, the good, the chop, the knife edge chop. But what really captivated me to tell me you can this is what I want to do, is when I started following Rob Van Dam. He was innovative. He had the martial arts. He had the background. He was agile. I mean, he did stuff that you didn't see at that time. And to me, I was like, man, I can do some of that shit. That guy, that's the kind of style I want to try to portray. So like, as I got a little older, I kind of kept telling myself I wanted to do it, but at that time, that's when at that time is when I was actually pretty heavy in martial arts, and I was kickboxing and stuff like that. So, I was just still a fan and going to shows and stuff. But then I got hurt, and things change. When you can't go to the gym, you can't train, and your mindset changes. And I was like, well, I don't, think I can do that at that level anymore. Or so I went to a wrestling show locally and was just like, some of the guys on the show was like, man, if these guys can do it, I know I can. As long as I get cleared from the doctor, I'm going to try this. And, I didn't know a whole lot about the business back then and didn't know a whole lot of different schools. So I just tried to find the closest place I could find that I could afford to go to, and ended up in Hagerstown. But my influences to get into business were more, wasn't like about the money, about the flashiness, about all that kind of stuff. It was like more about the athleticism of everything. Because, growing up, I was told many times, not cut out for this, or you can't do this, or even though I'm just as good a ball player as the next guy because my dad's not the coach, or my parents don't kiss the coach's butt, or whatever. I'm riding a pine, instead of playing the game. And at least with wrestling, to an aspect, the guys that didn't get that opportunity at that point of their life, now they can show what they can do, with their persona, their character, or whoever they are, because they say your character's like supposed to be like yourself amplified by 1,000 or whatever, So that's, I try to say that's kind of what, like, take the wild man. It's like, when I, without the face paint and stuff, I'm Robbie Page. I'm still the wild man, but I'm not. I'm just a regular guy. But when I put that face paint on and I know I'm about to get ready to wrestle and stuff, it's like it changes your levels. That adrenaline starts flowing, and it almost makes you feel like a superhero in a way. So I guess the me times 1,000 is like a vigilante in my mind, like I'm that guy that comes to save the day, to save the kids, or whatever. It's like I would put up the fight even though I would lose if it was the case, to help someone else or whatever. That's
they turn
how I feel.
into Marvel's Iron Fist.
there you go. That would be cool, But I feel like that's kind of in a way like the fashion of who I am, even as a person. Like I don't mind helping somebody else if they really need the help, and if it's a person that I genuinely know, I help them. If I'm in trouble, I know that they would help me, and I've helped people out. I've done things and stuff like that because that's the kind of person I am, and I would just hope that any kind of good deed or whatever I try to do, somebody would do the same. We all, everybody believes in different kinds of karma. Trust me, I've done my fair share of bad things in my life, and for the last 10 years or so, I've been trying to make up for that. And getting into wrestling, man, it was something that I always wanted to do. And 15 years later, I have different thoughts about it now than I did back when I first started. Or if you knew back then what you knew now, things would be different. And I tell you what, it would be, because I probably would have gone a different route. I would have did things a lot differently, and maybe things would be different, but it is what it is. And here I am now talking about just my experiences and stuff like that, because I feel like with the experience that I have had, 15 years, I know I've had over 2,000 matches. I've wrestled all over the place, and, I've winded down a little bit the last couple years, and I'm dealing with the injuries now. It might be coming to an end sometime shorter than later. But, having an outlet like this, coaching soccer and martial arts and stuff like that, that still keeps me busy. And I can still, with this format, with this platform, at least, I don't have somebody telling me what to say and how I'm supposed to say it and whatever. I can speak how I feel and say what I want to say, and it is what it is. It's not BS and nothing or anything like that. It's how I feel and the truth about it. And if you don't like what I have to say or what Donald has to say, you don't have to listen. But we're just here to give our own viewpoint on certain things and talk about everyday life. And, we're hoping that this show, maybe opens some people's eyes in the local area. It might give me some backlash and all that, but at this point I really don't care anymore. I've been burned so many times and stuff like that. It's time that I say what I really want to say. People don't like what I have to say, so be it. That's where I'm at with that. But
I'm looking forward to the local beefs.
Meet me down at Pooley's pub, and we're gonna duke it out. Trust me, I've had plenty of people in the past, send me messages, hey, meet me here and this and that, like high school. Can't talk like men, but whatever.
Meet me out back after the wrestling show.
After the wrestling show, we're all going to Denny's. I'll see you in the parking lot. But yeah, so I guess we'll wrap that up, and we'll go into where you can find me and Donald at. I'll go ahead and plug my Instagram at Wildman Robbie Page. You can hit me up on Facebook at Robert Page if you're looking for tickets to the local EPPW show. The next show is December 20th at Middleway Firehouse. It's last show of the year. Tickets are only $5. You can private message me on Facebook. You can meet me somewhere local in the area. I'll drop the tickets off to you. Go to mountaineerbrand.com, check out all their products. They always got deals going on, and if whatever deals they got going on, if you use code Wildman15, you'll get an additional 15% off your order. So help a brother out and go check that out. Use my promo code, and I'll take it to you there, Donald.
Check out Dragon Warrior Kung Fu on Facebook, on YouTube. Come take a class at Extreme Family Fitness in conjunction with Elite Martial Arts and MMA. Hit me up online. Buy my 5-animal Kung Fu distance program through shintairu.com. Check out my band Velchrome. Check out the album. There's going to be a couple more albums coming out from us soon. Thank you for tuning in to The Adrenaline Rush.
We'll be back next time with another voice and another opinion and some more stuff to talk about.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. And that's the show for today. Thank you for joining us on The Adrenaline Rush. I'm Donald Kinney. You can catch me on YouTube, Dragon Warrior Kung Fu, or on Facebook, Dragon Warrior Kung Fu.
And I'm Wildman Robbie Page. Check me out on Instagram at Wildman Robbie Page. You go to Facebook and type in Robert Page, and you can go to YouTube and type in Wildman Robbie Page. A bunch of matches, highlights, videos will come up. Do me a favor and go to mountaineerbrand.com. Check out all their products and use the promo code Wildman15. Save you some money on your order.